Thank you so much, Violetta, for talking about how far we've come and how far we have to go based on the incredibly robust research that you do and that Anne Rose has done for so long. Incredible work. So please use those resources. They're extraordinary, particularly in myth busting, you know, when you have backlash comments, but also proving that link between gender inequality and violence against women. Thank you so much, Violetta. Our next speaker has a rich history in the women's health, community services and education sectors and is a member of several task forces, including the Ministerial Task Force for the Prevention of Family Violence and other forms of violence against women. Please welcome the CEO of Our Watch, Paddy Kinnersly.
Thanks very much for the welcome, and it's a real privilege to be here today. I'd like to also begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and paying my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any elders with us here today. I believe that we're really at a turning point with violence against women in this country. I am an optimist, but I think many of you in the room would agree with me. And I think that's really because so much work has been going on from so many people. And that's people like Tracy, who's just been awarded the Sydney Peace Prize, as we've just heard today, but it also includes the groundbreaking work of this state and the various ministers for women and prevention and the Victorian government, but it also includes all of you here today. In Victoria in particular, Women's Health Services, Vic Health, local governments, and all of those organisations have worked with partners across this state. Nationally, we have the work of Commissioner Jenkins, Anne Rose, White Ribbon, Male Champions of Change, and many corporates as well who have been leading this work to bring us to a point where we are seeing serious attitudinal change and a desire to do more in this work. I'm really fortunate as I move around the country to talk with people, and I meet leaders in community, in organisations, in sporting clubs, in schools, people from all parts of the community. And what I see is now emerging a common thread. No matter who they are or where they come from or what their role is, they want to move from awareness raising, and we know that that's important and we need to keep doing it, but they actually want to move from that to do something. People say to me all the time, "I've got it, Paddy, I understand this is a problem, I even understand that gender equality is the driver, but what do I do?" People want to change what has brought us to this point where 17 women have already been killed this year. The story that saw Natalina Angok killed only a few blocks from here and her partner charged with her murder. Australians want to know what they can do to make change. Fortunately, all of us here know that we can make change. Violence against women is preventable, it's not a precondition of human nature, and we all know that we can do something to change the story. We know that violence against women is much more likely when there are unequal power relations between men and women in society and where unequal value and respect is afforded to women. And we've just seen that reinforced with the NCAS data. But preventing violence against women is not just about changing individuals. It's also about changing the society and the culture in which we live. And it's about changing the key places that we spend most of our time. Workplaces, sports, the media. Sorry, I've got my little thing up the wrong way. Okay. And we know that workplaces is one of those very important places. It has a significant influence over our professional and personal lives and over our society more broadly. Workplaces are one of the key places we test and reinforce, or test and challenge our sense of self. As such, workplaces have an opportunity, and not only that, they have a responsibility to take an active role in addressing gender inequality. To reduce violence, workplace cultures need to reject sexism and discriminatory attitudes. They need to confront organisational practices that devalue, exclude or marginalise women, and they need to support increasing numbers of female leaders. Boards, CEOs and senior leadership must lead the work in order to achieve whole of organisational change. The workplace equality and respect standards have been developed to guide this work. In November 2015, Our watch was funded by the Victorian Government's Department of Premier and Cabinet to lead the Workplace Equality and Respect project. It recognises the opportunity that workplaces have to disrupt and shift the norms, structures and practices that drive violence against women. Taking action in workplaces was not then and is not new now. Here in Victoria, the Women's Health Services, Vic Health, local governments and others, all in partnership, have been working to promote gender equality for a very long time. And nationally, organisations like White Ribbon, the Gender Equality Agency, the Human Rights Commissions and Male Champions of Change have been taking action to promote workplace gender equality for many years. We are deeply committed to drawing on the learning and the wisdom of all of those groups in the development of the Workplace Equality and Respect work. We also knew it was vital to engage workplace leaders and staff and board and all their stakeholders. And as Commissioner Jenkins just described to us, we know we need to have all of those people engaged because workplaces are the places where violence and sexual harassment does occur. And we know that violence that occurs in the home or in the community has an impact on workplaces. And we know that workplace culture and structures influence gender inequality. Every workplace conversation, every policy and action can either reinforce or challenge gender equality and the attitudes that promote violence against women. Our aim in developing the Workplace Equality and Respect standards was to recognise and build on the existing work to support workplaces. I can't count. We wanted to make sure that what we developed was freely available to every workplace in the country, is aligned to Change the Story, the national framework for the prevention of violence against women, and which helps people to align and recognise and build on and navigate the many and existing programs already going. I'm really proud to be here today, especially with a group like yourself and alongside the Minister and in the company of our key partners to share the results of this work with you today. The Workplace Equality and Respect Standards is all about guiding workplaces with overarching standards to do the work and an organisational change process and a set of tools and resources to facilitate progress towards gender equality in your workplace. Three key components to the Workplace Equality and Respect are 5 standards all organisations can work to achieve, a step-by-step process that enables workplaces to assess their individual needs, and a suite of tools and resources that are available on the Workplace Equality and Respect website. And I think today is an official launch date. They've been there for a while, but you can look on our website and you can access those now. The journey to get here, to this day, has involved a long process of research and collaboration, reflection and learning. In 2015, when we firstly commissioned RMIT to complete a research paper and review the current practice in the area of workplace and organisational approaches to support prevention of violence against women. So, alongside of identifying a raft of the work already underway, the paper highlighted the need for both structural and cultural change in workplaces, and it distilled key program components of promising practice in workplaces. This research from RMIT, along with Change the Story, informed the development of the Workplace Equality and Respect standards and tools. Between March 2016 and March 2017, 4 participating workplaces piloted the standards and the tools. They were La Trobe University, Connections, Uniting Care, the North Melbourne Football Club, and I see Cameron McLeod's here representing them today, and the Carlton Football Club. An expert advisory group made up of many of the organisations I've already talked about this morning contributed to and evaluated the pilot along the way and gave feedback, which we integrated to make the final product. excuse me, the Workplace Equality and Respect Standards set goals that workplaces must achieve in order to address gender inequality and prevent violence against women. These standards guide workplaces through comprehensive organisational change process, highlight what's needed to create change. There are 5 standards which cover securing the commitment of leadership and staff, ensuring conditions support gender equality, rejecting sexist and discriminatory culture, supporting staff and stakeholders who have experienced violence, and integrating gender equality into core business. In doing this work, it's really important that we have recognised that every workplace is different, with its own culture, its own structures, and its own change processes. We've also recognised that workplaces come to this work for a range of reasons. Some because they are committed to supporting staff who have experienced violence, others because they've had a long commitment to gender equality and they've been doing work and they want to take that further. And we know that organisations and workplaces are much more attuned to the fact that an organisation that is gender equitable is also doing better financially. And organisations, I think Commissioner Jenkins talked about this, want to be an employer of choice. So Workplace Equality and Respect acknowledges this and provides tools and resources that are flexible and adaptive so that workplaces can choose the actions that are appropriate for them and build on work they have already done. This work has to become a part of an organisation's DNA, not just be added to it on the side. The tools that accompany these standards are a workplace survey, a self-assessment tool, an implementation guide, a training package that can be delivered by endorsed trainers and organisations, and practical advice for workplaces on many topics, and we have found this to be really important. How do I engage leaders? How do we do our communications? How do we respond to staff who are experiencing violence? And how do we establish policies? The step-by-step process allows workplaces to identify and prioritise actions that will make real and lasting change suitable to their organisation. It's fair to say that we've learnt a lot along the way, from listening to and working with workplaces who took part in the pilot, but also a range of other organisations who were using the tools and resources along the way. Victorian local governments, the South Australian Human Rights Commission, and many other big workplaces. Some of the things we've learnt, and I actually don't think these will be new to most of you, but that we need to have serious leadership buy-in. Unless leaders understand why gender equality is so important and how the drivers can be addressed in their workplace, the organisational change necessary simply won't be sustained. We know that culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I'm pretty sure we didn't discover that, but it was certainly reinforced in this project. To bring strategies and actions to life, there needs to be a culture that is open to change and reflection. There is a big difference between a checkbox compliance project that you just need to get done and a process that genuinely works to engage staff and leaders in a conversation about where they want to go, about where they're truly starting from, warts and all. We've had feedback that the self-assessment tool really helps workplaces step through those tough conversations and make space to question assumptions and then pinpoint where change is needed. We've also understood through this process that we need to take backlash seriously and have conversations about what that is and what it means and how to work through it. Organisations also need to develop a language that is congruent for them. And to borrow from the North Melbourne Football Club, their gender equality strategy is aligned to their organisation's 4 key values, and I can't remember them all, Cameron, but it's about the shin boner spirit. Now, I can tell you that we certainly didn't expect when we started developing the WER standards that they would be aligned to the shin boner spirit of the North Melbourne Football Club, but it's an example of how to make the work come to life in your organisation, be aligned to your DNA, and therefore to get buy-in from your people. We've also learnt, and I'm sure Commissioner Jenkins has lots of stories about this, that the fear of the skeleton in the closet can't be a good enough reason not to do this work. It needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be planned for, it needs to be worked through, it needs to be taken seriously, but it can't be the reason not to do the work. And as you all know, this work takes time and it takes courage. Like all organisational change processes, achieving gender equality work takes both patience and courage, and it requires that people often have to question and change their own attitudes and behaviours. We all swim in a soup of gender stereotypes and inequality, and sometimes it's hard to challenge that. This work aims to understand that and be respectful of the time it takes. So what next? For many people in this room, this work has been underway for decades, and in other ways we are just starting. From an Our Watch perspective, we will use the online tools and resources to take this work nationally, and we have conversations wherever we go to make sure that other people understand the work and can access it. As you all know, this work is part of a much bigger picture of change that we are all a part of. Our power is amplified when we work together. Our Watch operates on the firm belief that when people from across the community, our sector, workplaces, sporting organisations, the media, education settings, everywhere we live, play and learn, then we will achieve lasting change. This spans everything from the Safer and Stronger Communities project being led here in Victoria by the Multicultural Centre for Women's Health, the National Sexual Harassment Inquiry led by Commissioner Jenkins, the Community Attitudes Survey that we've just heard about, the 4th Action Plan to prevent violence against women and their children, and the ceaseless work being carried out by all of us to drive change. In closing, I would like to take this little opportunity to thank 3 Our Watch staff, Jo Brislane, Monique Keel and Cara Gleeson, who have led this project from its beginning, and we don't often get the opportunity to stop for a moment and celebrate the work of our key staff, so thank you to you. And I want to, yes. And I want to thank you all for being here and for working alongside Our Watch. And I'd like to also congratulate the Victorian Government for their continued leadership. And it's been said today that it's not just state leadership, it's not even just national leadership, this work is being viewed internationally. So thank you for your time today and congratulations on your work.
Thank you so much, Paddy, on the tremendous work of Our Watch, and congratulations on the official launch of the standards. I agree with you entirely. We are at a turning point. We're seeing attitudinal change. For my sins, I live in Tony Abbott's electorate. And usually at barbecues, the conversation is, how are you, Trace? How's your feminist ranting going? But over the past year or two, the conversation has changed. The story has changed, and they're now saying, thank you for what the women of Australia are doing for our daughters and our sons in the next generation. So I know that we're having change when even at barbecues in very conservative areas, the story has changed. We have had some tremendous speakers this morning. We've got 2 panels coming up where we'll drill down on what we've discussed to get to the tools about what you need to take back to your workplaces. At the moment, though, please get recaffeinated. We'll regroup back here at 11:10. See you then.